You bring home a gorgeous new houseplant. Naturally, you want it to thrive, so you give it the royal treatment. You transfer it from its tiny nursery container into a spacious new pot, top it up with fresh soil, and give it a thorough watering. But then, a week goes by. The bright green leaves start turning yellow. The stems begin to droop. Despite your perfect care routine, the plant suddenly looks like it's giving up. Most people immediately blame themselves. They assume they neglected it, or that they simply lack a green thumb. And because the plant looks terribly thirsty, they usually do the one thing that guarantees its demise. They panic and add more water. This creates a direct conflict between the plant's appearance and its environment. It is exhibiting the visual symptoms of severe dehydration, the drooping, the yellowing, even though it is sitting in a pot full of fresh, wet soil. The reason for this decline is that we often view repotting as a simple upgrade to a bigger container. For the plant, however, this is a massive physical disruption. Its roots are disturbed, its environment is changed, and its internal systems are forced to recalibrate while exposed to the air. The first trap usually stems from human intuition. A healthy plant often tricks its owner into thinking it needs massive amounts of room to grow, so they move it into a pot 2 or 3 times its original size. Look at the physics of an oversized pot. When you surround a small root system with a massive volume of dense, wet soil, that unoccupied earth acts like a giant sponge. It holds on to water for days, long after the initial watering. And roots need oxygen just as much as they need water. They must breathe to process nutrients. But in this heavy sponge, water completely fills the tiny air pockets that usually exist in the soil. As those oxygen levels drop to 0, the environment turns anaerobic. The root system begins to suffocate. This creates a stagnant breeding ground where aggressive fungi thrive, and root rot rapidly consumes the underground network. This is why a plant can look thirsty while it is actually drowning. The roots are too suffocated to drink. The leaves droop as a result. The owner incorrectly waters it again, and the suffocation cycle accelerates. But pot size is only half the problem. The physical trauma of handling the plant often does immediate damage. You'll frequently hear the advice to aggressively massage and untangle a root ball to help it spread in its new home. This microscopic view shows a main root branch covered in thousands of delicate, translucent extensions. These are the root hairs. They are the actual lifelines of the plant, solely responsible for absorbing water and nutrients. They are incredibly fragile. Even squeezing the root ball too hard or lightly pulling at the roots physically strips these microscopic hairs right off the main system. Without them, the plant loses its physical mechanism for drinking. So even if the surrounding soil is dripping wet, the plant dehydrates because it has no biological way to pull that moisture inside. A damaged root system also has to contend with a sudden change in its surroundings. Moving from one soil mix to another can abruptly shift the moisture levels and airflow available to the roots, requiring the plant to adapt before it has even begun to heal. And almost everyone makes the mistake of adding fertilizer immediately. Applying strong nutrients to these damaged roots overwhelms them, similar to forcing a severely injured muscle to lift heavy weights before it has recovered. These standard human interventions, loosening the roots, introducing rich fertilizer, and radically changing the soil, do not help the plant. They compound the physical trauma, creating the state of decline known as transplant shock. Once the root system is traumatized, the plant has to trigger an internal energy reallocation protocol to survive. This is why leaf dropping is actually a positive survival mechanism. If the roots temporarily lose efficiency, the plant actively sacrifices its older, lower foliage to conserve the energy it desperately needs to rebuild its shattered underground network. You can observe this recovery in real time. If the main stems remain firm and new growth eventually appears, the plant is healing. But if the soil stays soggy, the stems turn mushy, and you notice a sour smell, the roots are actively rotting. Post-repotting survival depends entirely on providing stable, boring conditions. No constant moving, no heavy feeding, and no extra watering. You simply have to give the plant the time it needs to heal itself. When it is time to upgrade your plant, the science-backed strategy for mitigating trauma is simple. Move up only one single pot size at a time, and handle the existing root ball with extreme gentleness. Timing plays a huge role here as well. Repotting should only be performed during active growing seasons, usually spring or early summer. when the plant has the energy reserves required to survive the surgical shock, and you should only intervene when the plant meets strict physical criteria. This image shows 3 undeniable signs a plant outgrew its pot: roots circling heavily, roots escaping the bottom holes, or water running straight through instantly. If your healthy plant does not meet these specific criteria, leave it completely alone. Unnecessary repotting creates artificial stress for a biological system that is otherwise perfectly stable. True mastery of plant care is not about constant human intervention, and it doesn't require a magical green thumb. It is about learning to accurately observe the plant's biological baseline and stepping back to let nature function uninterrupted.